Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Unofficial Shopify podcast, your source for all things ecom recon. I'm Kurt Elster, aka
Jack Nasty,
coming to you from EtherCycle HQ in Skokie, Illinois. And today we're welcoming back a guest who is no stranger to the show, the mastermind behind Braxley Bands, the man who turned Apple Watch bands from a class project into a successful full-time venture, Braxton Manley. And back in 2022, January 2022, we had him on the show and we had a great chat about his journey. And we all left feeling inspired. In 2022, that was like shooting fish in a barrel for e-commerce. And so since then, Braxton has been battling business dragons, dodging the pitfalls of bankruptcy, and navigating toward profitable shores. Not only that, he's been redesigning his business, and he took the wheel from agencies, crafting new customer acquisition strategy, doing everything in-house now where possible, and he's got some new business ventures going. To me, that sounds like a thrilling entrepreneurial saga. I want to hear it. I want to know about it. Let's dive back into the world of Braxley Bands and more. Welcome back to the show, Braxton. How you doing?
All right. I'm so happy to be here, Kurt. And exciting update. We've actually dropped the word bands from Braxley Bands. We have other stuff now. So a lot of fun stuff to talk about. And thanks for having me on again. Would love to just provide value to everybody out there who's navigating the same challenges and battling those dragons and having fun along the way and hopefully finding that.
So you've got, well, I want to start with business updates. How have things at Braxley Bands since our last chat in January 2022? How have things changed? That's 18 months ago.
This spring, we launched our first non-Apple Watch band product. It's something I've been working on really from the beginning of Braxley 7 years ago, but we actually put it into production last year and released them this year. And so that product is a 2-in-1. It's a belt bag. So it's a belt that can be used on its own, a bag that can be used on its own. And together they make the world's most stylish and functional fanny pack bag.
And so the idea here, like you had the experience with the watch bands and the custom connectors it needs. And so you're like, all right, we've moved toward belt strap or the belt and the attachment for it. You build a bag, that seems to be, it's always tougher than it sounds and a lot of fun. Like I've known and talked to a lot of entrepreneurs who build bags. I own so many bags as a result. And I love them, but it sounds like it's interchangeable. Like you do, it's like the bag, and then similar to the watch straps, all kinds of belts that you could swap in.
That's right. It's truly a unique product in that way, and it's something that I was just passionate about for a few years, like designing something quirky and actually like sort of had this philosophy of like function first, then style second, and lastly make it inspire somebody, like 3-dimensional design. And I think we tried to do that with the watch bands in a lot of ways. Like the third inspirational thing on the watch bands, for instance, we laser engrave live flexibly onto the adapters. And actually, we are dropping a new tagline this year, which is going to be just feeling good, because our products are designed for comfort first. And so they all make the wearer. And I think it's a really cool external outward facing expression as well, as like, I'm feeling good. And so we're putting that on our new hats that we're dropping, as well as hopefully every product we sell, just with kind of that inspirational feel good message.
So we've got, obviously the watch strap business continued. You've updated that product line. Now we're laser engraving, and you've got a bag line, customizable bag line that's out now. You got hats coming out. And you drop bands. So we've got this full, bigger apparel fashion accessory brand going. If you're already making watch straps, and really like an Apple Watch strap is the same as any other, but for it uses a proprietary connector to the watch. Have you ever thought about going into other watch straps?
Like other smartwatch brands?
Well, I mean, you could use the existing thing with different hardware on the end gives you a universal watch strap for stuff that's not proprietary. And like 99.9% of watches fit that.
Yeah.
And you could do other connectors for proprietary watches, which tend to like a few oddballs like a Citizen EcoZilla, but everything else, a lot of smartwatches have some proprietary stuff.
Totally. And I've even gone as far as to consider making watches, like being a Swatch editor in a way, or a new version of how I love how Swatch did things, because they sell a collectible watch where you can get in at a relatively accessible price point, and they're just bonkers with styles. They have really out there stuff, and they do collaborations. And anyway, it seems like an obvious path to go with like, why don't we just make a watch for all these other compatibilities? And I'm realizing that more lately, that like it really is a good idea. I think I was in a way stubborn because I was like, let's just hyper focus on one thing. And I think that was actually the right move, was to just be like, we only make Apple Watch bands. There's such a large total addressable market with that it's just fun to stick with one thing. And then I started kind of loving the elastic component of the bands. And I was like, let's just expand on elastic products. So to answer your question, yes, I do actually want to put out watch bands for other watches, and we can totally do that. I think we're going to start the initial stages of that production, and hopefully we'll have something available, because it seems like it would be pretty easy to do. Hopefully we'll have something available by the end of 2023. But in the meantime, yeah, we got hats coming, and that's kind of where most of my energy is going right now.
I'm not a hat guy, but I own 3 times as many watch straps as I own watches. And so that like immediately tickles my fancy.
Nice.
Were there any other significant milestones Braxley's achieved in?
Yeah, well, we achieved some really cool internal, one of those being profitability.
Oh, the P word.
Yeah. And so what that required us to do was like just radically redesign the way the company and our lifestyles are. And the company is very small. It's me and my brother Zach. We are the 2 running Braxley as executives, and everything else that happens with the company is either done through I consider it a semi in-house team. We're working with some friends that do, say, for instance, content creation, and we're working with a awesome woman and her partner Eric and Chamomile, who run a magic agency, and we're like their first clients. And anyway, I wanted to give them a shout out because I really love working with them, since it's like a semi in-house team. Like we don't have to actually go through the challenges of paying someone in-house. So it's essentially, they're a micro agency.
What makes it a semi in-house team? Is it the fact that it's a partnership? It's 2 people?
Yeah. And it's just them, and we're like, essentially, I feel like we almost have them because the total, I guess, position is essentially email, SMS marketing, social media.
And so it's like having a fractional CMO, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's a good word for it. And so I think everybody can kind of find somebody like that out there. Us as a strategy, we chose to do that over a large agency. And so far, I really prefer it.
The personalized attention you get, that experience together. I'm sure there's pros and cons to it, but like when you find what works for you, that works the way you do, you grab on and hold. Any major hurdles or challenges since we last talked?
Yeah, well, one of the big challenges was running ads profitably and actually just figuring out new customers. The hardest thing has truly been figuring out, as we've kind of changed the way the company is structured, figuring out how to have someone to essentially manage traffic to the website and how to get new customers. We hired a consultant. His name's Chris Hernandez. He's on Twitter and stuff. And he reached out to me on Twitter, and I was like, hey man, he's from an agency background, but actually consults people on how to build their operations in-house. So he's basically teaching us how, teach a man how to fish and he can eat for a lifetime. And it's like essentially that with Facebook ads. Specifically, we're starting with meta ads. We're scaling up to, hopefully we'll be doing 6 figures in ad spend monthly by the holidays. And we're really like ramping things back up to hopefully new highs where, we're a brand who, like, our biggest year was 2021 and most profitable was probably 2020. And then 2022, we actually, we were not profitable. And so we had to really get serious and figure out how to essentially stop losing money and to how to gain customers.
So you were always able to acquire customers, but over time it got less profitable, and increasing PPC costs was the culprit. What was the issue that needed to be solved?
I think it was, retention. It was our whole website experience and making the website less of a kind of wild art project, making it more.
Oh, I love that site though. But yeah, it's a lot.
It can be both though. So it hasn't lost any character, but we've just done a lot to improve the customer journey on the website. And it's been really fun actually talking to you about the website. I mean, from our last conversation, when I did your office hours, which I don't know if that's a secret, but everybody should sign up for Kurt's office hours, because it really did change my entire perspective on our website experience. We've been making all those changes that you mentioned, and it's been fantastic so far. I mean, we've actually been able to now run Facebook ads profitably. We're getting customers, and we're having first order profitability using landing pages for the first time. We're running a bundle. We are optimizing for average order value, checkout, making the whole experience more fun, and hopefully, getting people so charmed. I think this is the key too. What we've always done is like we try to charm people so much that they are word of mouth marketers, making the experience something that's like so memorable and so charming that they talk about it.
And I think that's where that really in your face design aesthetic that the site's always had, where it makes it very memorable. It has so much personality. You get a sense of the people behind it, and it that lends itself to word of mouth because you can stay top of mind longer with people. You mentioned landing pages, and like any pro Facebook marketer will be like, all right, number one mistake I see is people sending to anything that isn't a landing page, that you want to send your traffic to a landing page. What's the trick there? Why do you think that helped you so much, the landing pages?
Well, because we can run high AOV bundles really nicely on landing pages. And so especially for, top of funnel traffic or middle of funnel traffic, like when we're just kind of introducing them to the brand, and also one of the biggest challenges within this new Facebook meta era is that, the customer acquisition costs have gone so up that a lower AOV brand, which we were averaging like the $40 AOV, sometimes lower. And it's just too low of an AOV for, I think, meta ads to actually work for people. And so we got that number way up through running bundles. And that's what the landing page really allows us to do, is run that bundle to a very specific audience. But then our website doesn't have to be centered around a 3 or a 4 band bundle. It can be everything. This is who we are. We have belt bags too. And we have all these.
Ballpark it. What's that threshold for AOV where you need to be, and obviously it's like different for every business, but just like a general, anything below this AOV, you're going to struggle to be profitable with Facebook ads.
I would say it's got to be $50, but we're trying to run bundles that are around the $100 mark, because it seems to be the sweet spot for DTC product market fit, so to speak. It's like,
and do you do free shipping?
We offer free shipping over $50, so it's really easy to hit free shipping, but it's just a little incentive to get people to buy more than one band, because our bands are $39.
So it makes I buy one, but then I'm paying for shipping. Oh, I may as well. It becomes may as well pricing. Well, I may as well get two to get the free shipping.
And even our shipping, when we made people pay for it, we made it like $4. Like we subsidized it, because it's just not cool to be a brand that charges a lot for shipping. Like I don't like it as a customer.
No one wants to pay for shipping, because it just it doesn't feel like you're getting anything for that money, right? Like I give you money, you give me a good. Well, shipping's a service that is just the unfortunate reality of e-commerce.
Yeah.
I want to minimize my experience with it as a customer.
Right. But it can also be used as a lever to get people to spend more.
Absolutely. It's like, hey, you can avoid that pain by getting, so you've branched out beyond just Braxley. You've got other brands you're building now. Yeah.
So my wonderful girlfriend who's in the other room working on her business right now. It's called Peace Love Hormones, and it is a herbal supplement brand that she's formulated herself, and it has amazing benefits. Like the one called Soothe that she launched with this year that is for women's, and it's really fun to be a part of it, because it's so different from Braxley, where we're just like a kind of out there fashion brand. And working on Peace Love Hormones has been fun, because it's very much more like mission driven. And I've had a lot of fun basically being the back end business side of Peace Love Hormones. And so that's been another one of my jobs.
And that sounds like it's a supplement brand. Supplements, like there's just inherent additional difficulties with it, as far as like regulations around it, manufacturing it, marketing it, how you could describe it, and just the supplement space. There's more people that fight dirty, I feel. Have you had any experiences with that? Have you been like, wow, these supplement people are crazy?
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, and what's cool is we're able to, with this one, do a creator-led brand approach. So Maddie's content creator at the Maddie Miles, and she's just putting out content every day, and basically has built a massive audience that, she can bring traffic to her website on a pretty regular basis, all organically. Like we've spent $0 on ads.
And you mentioned spending $0 on ads, organic building. You talked about the Facebook ads to acquire customers profitably was a big hurdle to get over. And a lot of this seemed to revolve around, you hired a consultant and tried to transition away from traditional agencies. I want to dig deep on that a little bit. Mm-hmm. Why did you decide to go this route?
I think because it's more connected. Like there's a real disconnection between working with like remote agencies, I think, And like really Braxley, I mean, we have a very distinct personality that we're kind of, we use a lot of humor, and like the aesthetics visually are very,
they're not that, I mean, they're not that wild. It's like we're talking about it like, you've got the Frankenstein's monster of a of a Shopify theme, and you really don't.
Yeah.
It's coherent, it's beautiful, it's on trend, but it's different. It's definitely different, and the vibe is like Lisa Frank Trapper Keeper.
Yeah.
But
we've toned it down. And some of our emails, like that's where we put a lot of attention to detail too, is in the emails. And so anyway, I just think though that I felt like I was giving up so many parts of the brand. Like we really bootstrapped this thing as college students where, I mean, the first 3 years we were running everything, and I was sending every email. I was creating every email, every Instagram post, every ad creative and whatnot. And I started giving all those pieces away. And I felt like the kind of the soul of the business had left me and was not exactly being innovative. I think like this allows us.
Is it dreaded burnout?
Yeah, it kind of felt that way. And so I think what, essentially bringing stuff in-house and trying to do things from a more cohesive team, the business can be a lot more fulfilling because you're more connected to your team.
So you don't necessarily want to have to do the stuff yourself. You want it off your plate. You don't want it to be so far removed from it that it is like this independent, separate action occurring just totally outside your purview. And so instead, the solution is like get smaller, more integrated team. And you guys like all work together in a Slack, use a Discord, a lot of Zoom calls. How's it work?
Yeah, we definitely use Slack. I mean, that's basically open on my second monitor all day, like just trying to be really communicative, as well as like Instagram. I try to just have open communication channels on all the platforms that we should be dedicating energy to. So like even TikTok. And I try to get in-person FaceTime with everybody I can. I mean, my brother just moved back to Austin where I live. And so we're going to be able to start collaborating a lot more in person together, which has already been just way more fun and way more impactful because we're just actually in person. And I don't think you can beat that. So at the same time, I am fully remote. Like we've always built the company to be remote. And since we're so small, I think it makes sense to stay that way for now. I love being remote. So sweet spot in the middle, I think.
As you shifted to this in-house strategy, any key lessons there?
Yes, I think the biggest one is communication is key. And not just everybody knows, oh yeah, I should be a good communicator, but actually learning communication techniques and it like being a very intentional, like making it efficient. So even communicating over Notion, like we have like sort of Notion etiquette now, where we used to just leave that thing like super messy. We just had one of those boards, basically like a Trello, but we were using it on Notion. I would just let that thing get so messy, and then it's like, okay, we got to like start like cleaning everything up. Like it felt like just really like organizing. We're still making sort of compound habits on that, like just staying more organized in-house. Through that, like the vision and the kind of soul can get passed along more easily to another person, because like we can't as founders like just do it all ourselves. We actually do have to delegate things. And
I've learned this lesson myself, and part of it that really helped solidify it was using ChatGPT to help me write stuff, where it's like I can now brain dump my thoughts and say, hey, I need this organized into an outline. Ask me questions to get this more refined. This is our goal. What am I missing? And being able to have that as a writing partner, that doesn't make mistakes, has been instrumental in being able to delegate without having things lost in communication, right? Because you're able to produce. This is a very consistent, professional, description of all these tasks, goals, projects that we're trying to do, and having that has become a superpower for productivity, but also really be able to increase our output. More importantly, the quality of that output by getting that consistency. As you've moved toward that, where it's like, all right, you're getting better at systems and processes through a smaller team and actively prioritizing the importance of communication and good communication between people. What impact did that have on the profitability of your business and your sanity?
Yeah, the sanity one was key, because being a more efficient operator, it frees up some ability to do other ventures. So the impact that had, beyond just, actually beginning to start spending on ads profitably again, after we hit the hard reset button and had 2 months where we spent $0 only generating revenue off of email and word of mouth and a little bit of a text list, and an Instagram. But anyway, all organic.
And so when you you'd quit spending on Facebook ads entirely for 60 days. Did this have anything to do with a looming bankruptcy? I know you did not declare bankruptcy, but it sounds like, the subtext here is this was a genuine fear.
Yeah, because things were just trending in the wrong direction. And it was like, oh, we have to do something. And, we can't pay ourselves right now. And basically dealing with like the hard kind of wartime CEO stuff. And so I think that we hit the hard reset button on ads because it was like, let's see how lean we can get. Like, what does this business actually cost to run? As long as we kind of hit that number, and this is actually, shout out Eric Banholtz of Beard Brand. This was something I met with him over coffee, and he told me this, that, really, really changed my perspective. And that was to he calls it like a water bug metaphor. There's a water bug or something like that can live 100 years without water by essentially like doing some type of like expellation process. But anyway.
Yeah, it's like this tiny little critter. It's like microscopic level that can survive basically anything.
Yeah. And so
it's called a water bug. And they're like, when you see them, zoomed up 10,000 times, they're terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. And so sometimes people have to do that with their business and just be like, all right, let's basically let's try and cut every unnecessary expense we possibly can and like see what this business really runs on and where we're at and build back up in a much more controlled way and a way where I think we are just far better operators now than we've ever been because we had to go through that training process again.
For sure, when you start a business in a boom time, it makes you complacent on spending and things that you just weren't aware of. And then when the reality of that business changes, I think a lot of people panic and they just start pushing buttons and hoping for the best. And you took a much more strategic approach to it where you got real honest with yourselves and you went all the way lean. I love the phrase wartime CEO, all the way lean, including not paying yourself, and said, all right, how far back can we strip this business and see how it performs and what it does and get a real sense of what that core base businesses are. What is the cornerstone of these operations, of this cash flow generation? And then, all right, let's build on top of that, knowing what we know now. And that seems to have worked out very well for you as you avoided bankruptcy and you're profitable, correct?
That's right. So, we're really gearing up for a strong Q4. I feel like that's something we learn year after year is like Q4 is really made in Q3. And so I feel so excited for the next 6 months of this year. And
now we survived bankruptcy. We're scaling the company back up. Tell me about what that looks like.
Yeah. So I am working with a lot of people to really generate a content machine. And so I think what it really looks like for us right now is building a content machine where we're getting awesome stuff, like not just cool shots or like UGC, but like compelling content and visuals and material to use to display our brand on all these channels, hopefully organically. And it's something I've done a lot of in the past is sort of make content, which I still love doing, but it does relieve some of the pressure where I can actually give this to people that are focused on photography, videography, all this good stuff full time. Frees me up to kind of make those more CEO level, I think, decisions and like things I have to do looking towards that Q4 looming on the horizon. So, the content machine is key. Like that's like the first component, I think, of scaling up, getting that to flow in. Then we have our ad set up with we have a consultant kind of teaching us how to do things in-house, but it's pretty freaking easy to do in-house. Like they've made things way easier than they used to be. I think everybody should really consider running ads in-house if they have anybody that actually has the bandwidth to do it. It's been fun, actually. I've enjoyed it. And so
with this new experience, running it in-house when you could do it successfully, there's a huge, that overhead, that administration cost goes away. You're closer to it. You can move faster with it. And you have a much better understanding of like, this is the content that clicks. You're doing a lot of content generation, running your own ads. What works right now? What are like, broad strokes, channels, formats, themes, like what's clicking with people these days?
Something that I'm really excited to start really diving into is TikTok shops, the TikTok shop. And it's it's brand new to me, actually. So like we got it set up this week. I've only hopped on this because I've heard the greatest things about it so far. Like some brands are seeing crazy success and, calling it Facebook in the early days.
What is it?
Well, it's a TikTok shoppable experience. So you can go on there and actually just check out in app. You don't have to leave the app. And that's the
Oh,
key.
they're thrilled with this if it's successful.
Yeah, like that's the key is not leaving the app. Like if somebody's on TikTok, let them just buy on TikTok. Like they don't need to. Nobody wants to leave TikTok. TikTok is great, So I'm excited to see how it develops because I know it's probably going to also become placed on these other apps such as X.com.
X.com. It'll be much like this year's Willis Tower will always be the Sears Tower in my head. I think X.com would always be Twitter. I hope.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see what happens there because I hope it becomes a actual destination for small business owners to market their product.
Any more placements, more surfaces, more impressions, I will always take what I could get, experiment with it. It sounds like TikTok shops though. Exciting stuff. I'm curious to hear how that goes. So as you're scaling Braxley back up in this new and improved version of it, it sounds like your role has changed. So compare and contrast. What's Braxton's day-to-day look like now versus 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
3 years ago, let's say. I mean, in a lot of ways, it doesn't look all that different on a high level. Like it really doesn't. I think it's being more efficient with my time and with being a better communicator with the teams that kind of, like I said, like these sort of semi in-house people that I feel like I'm that are very accessible, that we can be very collaborative. I think that's the word. Like I'm more collaborative with everybody and I enjoy it because I like Braxley, like when I first started it, like this was just an expression of my own, like as if I'm a fashion designer and I was turning Apple Watch bands, which at the time, the first ones were made out of socks. I was just getting cool patterned socks and making like the dopest Apple Watch bands with those around campus. And that's always kind of been the thing I've always wanted to do is like, that's the dream is like awesome stuff.
So you've got this, there's obviously like a product design philosophy that lives in your head. And at the start of the show, it sounded like form follows function. Like this thing, it's got to work. But once it's achieved that, then you could layer on aesthetic appeal. And that's a requirement too. How do you think, after 3 years of product development, how do you think that your product design philosophy's evolved?
So I think the way it's evolved so for instance, I'm holding this hat here, which is a prototype, the latest prototype, but we're going to have a few more tweaks to it once it's actually to market. I think my product philosophy, especially lately, has been around finding things that add perceived value to the product, but don't actually add cost to you because it's optimizing on both ends. So like we had a really hard time with the launch of the belt bags because honestly, they have a really high cost. And so while we were able to get the MSRP like where we want it to be, and we're still going to be able to generate profit on those if we continue to do so efficiently, but they don't have as good of a margin as the watch bands do. And so with the hat, I'm thinking about it as an operator, like, okay, we want to be able to sell this thing profitably. Like we want to make it have a really high perceived value, but we're not using all these expensive pieces that aren't necessary. We're only spending money where it counts. And, on the flip side of that is the artist, which is like, all right, I want to make this thing look like my favorite hat ever, and something that is just like very unique. So there's finding that point in the middle.
Knowing what you know now, if you went back 3 years ago, what advice would you give yourself?
Okay, this is a joke. I would tell myself not to sign up for Yacht. I don't know why that popped in my head. I'm just kidding. I've never used Yacht, but I know it's kind of sometimes a punchline.
DTC Twitter likes to punch down on Yacht or punch up on Yacht, I suppose.
I'm sure they're great people. We actually we switched to SendLink. So heck, that's actually one of the things I probably would tell myself was to not spend so much on excessive email and SMS. We gave ourselves like a crazy high budget for that. And, I guess, really 3 years ago, SendLane wasn't what it is now, but we've been really happy switching from Klaviyo PostScript to SendLane. And there wasn't anything necessarily wrong. We were happy with Klaviyo and PostScript, but I really liked the team at SendLane being more connected. Like it's the same thing. I have a Slack channel with the SendLane team, and I just actually switched because I enjoy being more hands-on and collaborative with the entire, I think, system. Yet I don't have to have the overwhelming burden of like having to manage it all myself, which I was pretty much doing 3 years ago.
And I don't think you're alone in some of these transitions, at least, not what I've seen on DTC Twitter. Lots of folks making similar moves this year. Does the future hold for Braxley? What's coming down the pipe?
Yeah, so we were going to have a fall collection, which is going to consist of awesome new hats, which we had the idea for hats like 5 years ago, and then really started making real forward progress on a production. And so I'm really excited because I've been taking my time with making it awesome. And there's a couple awesome DTC hat brands that are doing really well. And I think the space is fun. And so we have that. We have a collection of watch bands coming out. And I think it's also, to be determined. Like, we're trying to be able to be in a place where we can really move fast on things as well. And so the Braxley that exists in Q4 is probably not going to be, well, it definitely won't be what Braxley is today, because we're making, radical steps forward with still every aspect, just optimizing the brand anywhere we possibly can and getting on more channels for more distribution. Just launched on Amazon and crushed it on Prime Day. I feel excited for Amazon. We're just I think working hard and looking to find ways to optimize and to genuinely enjoy the work.
And finally, you gave yourself advice. You've got a vision for where you're going. You know where you've been. What's your advice for listeners?
My advice for listeners is to really find ways to enjoy what you do, I think, and make sure you have that balance in your life where you can work on a passion project, spend a day outside. I really try to balance my computer time with my outside time. It just does wonders, because once you're operating and once you're kind of dreaming from a place of just feeling really healthy, then you can just do so much more. And so it all starts there, I think, with optimizing health as a foundation, and then you're going to make great things.
Braxton Manley, where can I get one of these sweet watch straps?
That would be at braxley.co. Sweet new domain name just dropped. Braxleybands.com is actually still functioning as well. But
I'll include a link in the show notes. And what about the other projects you're working on? Give me plug it there so we can get some backlinks.
Yeah, so I am launching my second brand that I've been working on beyond Braxley and Peace Love Hormones, and that is chiselgum, which is the brand is actually going to be Modern Primal Provisions, and chiselgum is our first product. So we're bootstrapping it, and this has been a passion project for me, my brother, and my best friend Joe, who is Modern Primal on Instagram. And so we're kind of trying a fun creator-led brand approach where my brother and I, who are the kind of operators of Braxley, and we're learning so much with Braxley and using it almost as our guinea pig, that allows us to play that second time founder role. And also we know exactly all the moves to make to essentially build this up. There's tons of economies of scale to, I think, launching this alongside Braxley. And then, Peace Love Hormones, growing that brand as well. It's peacelovehormones.com, and highly recommend checking out what Maddie Miles is doing over there, because it's gonna, I think, really. So I think that's all I got. Check me out on Twitter at Braxton Manley. Trying to tweet more, or I should say X more.
It's never gonna happen. It's tweeting. It's Xing. Oh, I re-X'd it. Come on, Elon. Let's be serious here.
Yeah.
And on that note, I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into Braxley Bands with Braxton Manley, who seems unstoppable in his determination. Really, this man embodies the spirit of entrepreneurship, I think. And we also see the journey to success, not a straight line. And so these real life experiences and these challenges, they're not necessarily fun at the time, but you could view it as this is enriching, this is great. And so, Braxton, I want to thank you for sharing your story with us and giving us a glimpse into the reality of things, not sugarcoating everything, which I think is often a problem on social media, us just only sharing the highlight reels of our lives. And to our listeners, we're here to support you as well. Please join our Facebook group, Unofficial Shopify Podcast Insiders. Happy to hear from you. And I share some other tips in there as well. And again, this is Kurt Elster.
Check nasty.
Signing off, and keep selling.